As you know, typically on Fridays, we conclude our day and the week with a biblical worldview segment. There's so much happening right now, though, in Israel. We want to focus this last segment there. And at a time when the government shutdown and the elections of this week certainly have been dominating the news, there have been some pretty significant developments in the Middle East that are also making waves, specifically relating to Israel. So joining me now from Jerusalem on the latest is Chris Mitchell. He's the Middle East Bureau Chief at CBN News. Chris, thank you for joining me. Always a great honor to have you.
Hey, great to be with you, Jody.
All right, so let's start off with the strikes that the Israeli military carried out across southern Lebanon. What are you able to tell us about that, Chris?
Well, the strikes Thursday were probably the biggest strikes since the ceasefire in November of 2024. And what the IDF is doing is trying to destroy all the infrastructure that Hezbollah, with Iranian backing, is trying to reestablish in southern Lebanon. So that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying what they did yesterday was just a preview of what they can do. And there is talk and rumors of maybe that the IDF would actually go into southern Lebanon and do what the Lebanese army is supposed to be doing, which is to disarm Hezbollah and any other militia of their arms. So it's a very difficult situation right now where it's going to go. The Lebanese president, Aoun, he condemned Israel for the strikes, but he also says that there should be negotiations between Israel and Lebanon about disarming Hezbollah. The Hezbollah leader, on the other hand, Jody, says they will not disarm and they want no negotiations with what they call the Zionist entity. So precarious situation right now on Israel's northern border and southern Lebanon.
Yeah, so what does all this mean for the U.S. brokered ceasefire agreement between Lebanon and Israel? And I mean, is it still in effect?
Well, it's in effect, but part of that ceasefire allowed Israel to go ahead and respond to any violations by Hezbollah of the ceasefire. So almost literally daily since the ceasefire, Israel has been hitting Hezbollah operatives or Hezbollah targets or weapons depots almost on a daily basis. But there had been a report from the Knesset we had heard about that said actually Hezbollah was rearming faster than Israel could actually stop it. So that's why it's a serious situation for Israel, and why they're saying this could be a preview of what's to come if Hezbollah doesn't disarm voluntarily. If the Lebanese army doesn't do it, they may have to do it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big concern. Hezbollah, as you just mentioned, allegedly has been rearming, and I suppose really that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone per se, but the truth is they're probably not the only ones who are rearming. And even though the ceasefire agreement is in place, there's still serious threats to Israel as they are really engaged in a multi-front war, and they have been for the last couple of years. So what are Israel's biggest concerns at the moment?
Well, the biggest concern, especially up in Lebanon, was that they would have a number of missiles, hundreds, if not thousands of missiles that would pose a danger once again to northern Israel. Most of the Israeli residents up there in the north had fled during the war, but about 90% of them are back in their homes, rebuilding what either had been destroyed or abandoned for a number of months. So the danger would be that they would have to evacuate again, that Hezbollah would launch attacks once more. And apparently that Hezbollah is trying to rearm through some of the channels it had used before, by sea and through Syria, and just rearming what they had lost during the war with Israel.
Wow. All right. So there's Hezbollah. Let's talk a little bit about Hamas, the ceasefires between Israel and Hamas. What is the status of that right now, particularly regarding the bodies of the remaining deceased hostages?
Well, there seems to be just 6 remaining, the remains of those deceased hostages that have yet to be given back by Hamas. to Israel. And the return of the hostages has been piecemeal, maybe one or two or three throughout the last several weeks since the beginning of the ceasefire. Israel has felt like Hamas is just stalling purposely as a psychological tactic, as a delay so they can continue to rearm and rebuild themselves. So it remains to be seen. Once those 6 remains of the deceased will come back, that should end the phase 1, which is all the hostages, as well as some of the bodies of Palestinians going back into Gaza. And then that would lead to phase 2. Now, phase 2, Jody, is probably the most problematic because that would be the disarmament of Hamas. Hamas does not want to disarm. In fact, they're just enforcing their rule over 47% of Gaza that Israel had pulled out of. Israel still controls about 53% of the Gaza Strip, but nobody, I think, of this so-called, which is called International Stabilization Force. The U.S. is putting a draft resolution to the UN Security Council about this, what it's called the ISF. They would be a potential peace enforcing force that would go in to help disarm Hamas. But it remains to be seen if any of the nations actually want to do that. So it might be left up to the IDF, Jody, to go back in and to go ahead and disarm Hamas by themselves.
Wow. Well, it just seems to be a never-ending saga, one page after another. And while all that is happening, Chris, we still have the U.S. as well as some other mediators are reportedly pressing Israel to grant safe passage to about 150 Hamas militants that are underground in Israel-controlled parts of Gaza. Can you tell us about that? What's going on that issue?
Yeah, well, apparently they had gotten trapped in tunnels inside Rafah, that's near the Egyptian border. Egypt apparently is trying to get a compromise and saying they could be released, but they would have to give detailed reports of those tunnel systems that they're in, so Israel could go back and destroy them. That's not acceptable to Israel right now. They want they don't want to allow these 150 or so Hamas fighters to be released. So that's where that remains right now.
Wow. So what about the release of all the hostages that are held by Hamas? I mean, you touched on that, but going back to that, I mean, that's still phase 1 of Trump's 20-point peace plan. And so it seems to me that while all these other factors that you're bringing up are coming forth, we're still stuck on phase 1, aren't we? I mean,
we are.
How are things looking? How are things looking about going to the next phase? Are we going to get there?
Well, if the bodies of these 6 remaining hostages are released, that could be the beginning officially of phase 2. But Hamas has been saying that they might not be able to recover the remains or find the remains of those six remaining hostages. So that could have actually delayed apparently this official start of phase 2. As I said, is very problematic. It's going to be very hard to go in there. Hamas is refusing to disarm. They call this ceasefire, what they call it is a hudna, which is in Islamic terms just a temporary ceasefire so that they could rearm for the next battle.
Well, we did have some good news yesterday, the announcement regarding Kazakhstan joining the Abraham Accords. Can you tell us about that? How's that being received?
Well, good. It's some good news here, Jody. It is good news. They do have full diplomatic relations with Kazakhstan, so it's somewhat symbolic, but it also takes the Abraham Accords to a different geographical region away from the Middle East, so Northern Africa, and it takes it into Central Asia. So that's a positive thing, and it could be a door open to other countries. And I guess the big one everyone's looking at is Saudi Arabia. President Trump intimated that might happen just in an event last night where he said maybe Saudi Arabia is the next one. But there are other nations that could join, Indonesia, Azerbaijan. So Kazakhstan could be the first of many other nations during President Trump's second term.
Wow, it'd be great to see the domino effect begin there. Chris, if I can, real quickly, let me maybe switch gears a little bit as we had off-year elections here in the U.S. this week, and perhaps the most disturbing result came out of New York City's election of Mamdani as their next mayor. I mean, here we're dealing with a self-proclaimed Muslim democratic socialist who now is going to be the next leader of the city with the world's largest population of Jews. What has been the reaction there in Israel, if any?
Well, Jody, yeah, I think they're quite concerned, not just people here in Israel, but I think Jews worldwide, what this means for Jews, especially in New York City. Many people see this from a Muslim point of view, that this is going to be very difficult for Jews in New York City, and maybe this may lead to what they call Aliyah, a large Jewish immigration of Jews from New York City, the largest collection of Jews, population of Jews outside of Israel. And many people believe, many of them may be heading here to Israel because feeling much safer here in Israel as opposed to the 5 boroughs of New York City.
Wow, what a comment and what a thought that is. All right, well, let me just push on a little bit further from there. Another concerning development is the continued rise of anti-Israel sentiments coming from some influential conservatives. And of course, Tucker Carlson has drawn a lot of attention as well as a lot of criticism for his remarks last week, as well as the guest that he made some of those remarks to, who himself is a Holocaust denier, Nick Fuentes. What has been the reaction in Israel to that interview?
Well, I was just at a Christian media summit here in Jerusalem, Jody, and that was one of the topics of discussion. And what it was said during that time is Christian Zionism is simply Christian support for Zionism. And what is Zionism? It's simply the movement in support of the Jewish people back to their homeland, their ancient homeland. That's simply what Christian Zionism is all about. It's as old as Christianity itself. Literally, I just came from Mount Zion from dinner, Jody. In the Gospel of Mark, it says that the quoted Isaiah, "My house shall be a house of prayer for all nations." That's going to be on the Temple Mount. And now every one of the Jewish prophets, the Hebrew prophets, prophesied about the restoration of the land of Israel and the people of Israel back to their land. Every one of the Hebrew prophets except Jonah. It's also been throughout church history. Tertullian in the 3rd century said Christians should rejoice at the restoration of Israel. In the 17th century, the Puritans believed in that. The 18th century, Jonathan Edwards said about that, I'll quote, "Israel will be a distinct nation. Christians should have free access to Jerusalem because Jews would look on Christians as their brethren." Jody, we're living in that day right now. Lord Balfour in the 19th century, this 1917 Balfour Declaration. So Christian Zionism is not Christian heresy. It's Orthodox biblical belief. It's 2,000 years old, and it's not a brain virus. And I think people over here, Jody, they would say to Tucker, first of all, know your history, read your Bible, and come here to Israel to see for yourself the restoration of Israel. As a journalist, it's the least that he can do.
Absolutely. Chris, we've only got less than a minute left. So with all that's going on, how would you encourage our viewers and listeners to pray for Israel right now?
Well, great wisdom for the leaders of Israel. They have, a situation, threats on the northern border, the southern border. They have threats to its very legitimacy with statements like, attacking Christian Zionism and Israel itself. So pray for great wisdom and that these attacks, not only verbally but militarily, would be thwarted. And remember the verse in Psalms that the Lord watches over Israel. He neither slumbers nor sleeps.
Wow, what a powerful, powerful passage. Thank you, Chris Mitchell, joining us from Jerusalem, Middle East Bureau Chief for CBN News. Always an honor to have you. Be safe, and God bless you.
Thank you, Jody. God bless you.